Good morning, everybody. Glad to have you here. Thank you for joining me here in the middle of the week. And if you will, again, I ask you to like, share, comment on the post. And then if you're able, if you want to join me in the 19th chapter of the book of Acts, we'll enter into another section. In verse 21, the Bible says Paul resolves in his spirit to pass through Macedonia, Achaia, and go to Jerusalem, saying, after I have been there, I must also see Rome. And having sent into Macedonia two of his helpers, Timothy and Erastus, he himself stayed in Asia for a while. What we see here in these couple of verses, besides a naming of a few cities, is we can see kind of Paul's plan, how he intended on sharing the gospel and reaching through the known world as best he could. His ministry had began in the big cities in the southern part of Galatia. And then he had planned to quickly move on from there to Ephesus. And Ephesus was an important city in the gospel, because it was kind of the middle of the road. It was kind of the major intersection. If you're familiar with North Carolina, it's kind of like where if you go up 85 in towards Greensboro, and where 85 and 40 meet, you got a major north-south interstate meeting a east-west interstate. That's kind of what Ephesus was. Ephesus was a major intersection on the road, and so it made sense to go there. But what we see here is Paul wasn't able to see into the future, and God was. And God knew how the region, how that area would grow and prosper, and where nations and cities would spring up. And so he goes in, God leads him to some other places that would be maybe not as important then, but would eventually be important in the grand scheme of evangelizing Europe. And so he eventually does get to Ephesus, and then he says, I must see Rome. And his again, that had been Paul's goal for a long time, was to get to Rome. He knew that for any plan of evangelization, for spread of the gospel to be successful long term, ultimately Rome, which was the capital of the world at that time, not just the capital of a country, but it was basically the capital of the world. They had to get the gospel to Rome. And again, he had been praying for years to be allowed to go to Rome. And now it appears that the Spirit has given him permission, and so he does. And again, another little thing that goes on here in verse 22, he sends Timothy and Erastus on to Macedonia. And so while Paul, here's a good lesson for the church today, because many times in the church today, churches are either really good at evangelism, of reaching people with the gospel so that they can be saved, or they really emphasize discipleship and training up and raising up and maturing believers, when we're commanded to do both, to not only win them to the Lord, but then to disciple them and to train them. And so therefore Paul sends Timothy and Erastus on to Macedonia for that purpose, and so he plans then to go on to Rome and to eventually proclaim the gospel there. And just a good reminder, good lesson for all of us as believers, that the plan of God is a twofold plan. We definitely, I don't think anybody in their right mind would argue that our our marching orders are to carry the gospel, go into all the world, the Bible tells us, go into the outermost parts of the world, and take the gospel. But then we're also told to disciple, to train them up. Older women teach the younger women, older men teach the younger men. And so we have a twofold job. And I'd like to leave you today with a thought, a question: are we doing either? Are we doing either one of those things? When we look at the statistics and look at the numbers that are reported to us on a regular basis from different pieces of research, the evidence seems to say that we're not really doing either one of them very good. We're not doing a very good job of winning people to the Lord. And my personal opinion, and I think many would agree, the reason we're not winning people to the Lord is because we're not discipling the ones who are believers. We're not teaching them, we're not training them up so then that they go out and share the gospel, and so that people come to know Christ, and then the process just continues. And so I want to encourage you to make that an issue, an item of prayer and action in your own personal life, that we're called both to be evangelists and disciple makers. And honestly, I'm not sure we're doing either one of those very well. Think about it. We'll see you here tomorrow morning.